I'm Blake Farmer, and this is Nashville. Abstaining from alcohol is on the rise, and we're not just talking about dry January if you're participating. People are telling pollsters that they're done with drinking. For some, they've just migrated to mellowing out with THC, which is now much easier to get. But many are making the move because they've seen or experienced the negative physical and mental effects associated with alcohol consumption. And the market's responding, as we'll talk about today. Only in the last few years did you start hearing of mocktails if you're at a restaurant. Now, it seems like waiters are sure to highlight their NA options, even as they're going down the long list of wines or the cocktail menu. We're going to get started today with Dr. Michael Caldwell. He's the former chief medical officer of Nashville. And in fact, I think last time we were together, it was in a haunted house, a story for another day.
Yes, it was.
Well, it was back in COVID times when we were trying to see, is there a way to open haunted houses safely in 2020? And indeed, at least a few did. But you're now at Meharry Medical College where, I don't know, I almost want to call you Mr. Dry January over there. What's your title?
Yeah, my title is the Chief Medical Officer for Dry January USA, and you could learn more at dryjanuaryusa.org.
Well, and we will talk about that Meharry is basically the owner of Dry January USA for the time being. Quick reminder, we are streaming at youtube.com/@WPLN. If you're watching, this issue is kind of what I like to call a talker. So if you've got thoughts, we're not taking phone calls today, but you're welcome to jump in the chat with your experience, whether it's about Dry January or limiting alcohol. We'd love to hear your thoughts, and I'll try to work them on the air as Tasha maybe hits me with some Slack messages here. Well, when did promoting alcohol-free living kind of become your mission?
I've been devoted to public health and tobacco control for most of my career, and I saw in the last 10 years the evidence piling up about alcohol not being something that you should have. The misnomer that one drink of alcohol a day was good for you now, I think, has ended. And now we may be able to say one drink a day may not be so bad, but it certainly is not good. And people know that less alcohol in your life makes your life better.
Yeah. Well, you've said that alcohol's at this 1964 tobacco moment. What do you mean?
Well, at that time, most people did not realize that tobacco was a risk factor for cancer. Similarly, a year ago, the Surgeon General put out an advisory linking alcohol to cancer. And if you look at that data, the majority of Americans went, whoa, I knew there were a lot of reasons to not drink alcohol, but I really didn't realize it caused cancer. I thought maybe I had to drink a gallon of gin a day to cause cirrhosis, but cancer, I didn't understand it. So I think this is a moment where we have great potential. We are able to provide education and get people to narrow that knowledge gap, because a lot of medical and public health people have known for a while there are 25 reasons to reduce alcohol in your life, but cancer scares people.
Yeah.
And especially people who are a little older, they think that, hey, what can I do to not give cancer a head start? Maybe I could eat less red meat. I could be active. I could also watch my blood pressure. I'm worried about dementia. What can I do to prepare myself for this later part of life? And suddenly they hear, oh, even a little bit of alcohol is linked to cancer. A lot of people call me up and said, Michael, I just didn't know.
Yeah. Well, is alcohol really as harmful as smoking when you're kind of looking at the medical evidence?
No, it is not. However, if you are really interested in trying to do everything you can about reducing your risk of certain cancers, especially breast cancer, and this is what drives me crazy is, as you know, in October, there are a few breast cancer foundations that will sell you an alcohol pink cocktail to raise money for breast cancer. I'm fine with that as long as they put a little bit of education to say, by the way, this may increase your risk of breast cancer. Or I mean, let's use the moment to try to make it enjoyable. We are not anti-alcohol at Dry January. We're about putting a mirror up to your own relationship with alcohol. We're about making sure that you are educated about what the science is, and learning that you don't have to do it alone. We have a free app. It's called Try Dry. You can get it at dryjanuaryusa.org. Meharry Medical College has always put a spotlight on the underserved or under-recognized issues. And let's face it, Blake, when you hear about opioids and fentanyl and drug trafficking, that sometimes you think the only problem with drugs, but yet alcohol is used by at least 80% of all those people that use that too. It's fundamental, and not enough attention is being paid to the problem of alcohol in our society.
Yeah. Well, how did this, storied, historically black medical college in town become the official U.S. hub for Dry January?
Well, Dr. James Hildreth, our president, had a vision to start a school of global health. And since I had been the Nashville public health director and saw the impact of alcohol in our community, I had learned about Dry January, and I learned that it was an officially trademarked program out of England, and they were launching in different countries. They had not found a partner in the United States yet. So with Dr. Hildreth's support, we reached out to Alcohol Change UK, and we said we would like to be the official home for Dry January USA, and that's how it started. So a global program for a new school of global health, with a school that's now celebrating its 150th anniversary, that shines a spotlight on things in our community that need more light. You mentioned that Surgeon General warning that was issued, I guess, for the first time ever last year, I believe, about cancer. And then this year, I actually am trying to understand if it's really all that significant, but the Department of Health and Human Services at least changed the wording of the recommendation related to alcohol in the last week or so, that sort of just says we should limit alcohol consumption. Sort of, it seems to step aside from that sort of one drink a day for men, or one for women, two for men kind of a thing. Do you see any sort of step backwards at this moment? Well, I think there's a lot of my public health colleagues around the country that are seeing a number of decisions regarding health being kind of a little bit on the gas pedal and a little bit on the brake. What I mean by that is, what's happening with some of the vaccine recommendations. So alcohol is sort of like on that side. On the other side, they are trying to really make progress with certain types of food items. So let's face it, President Trump doesn't drink. The Secretary of Health and Human Services doesn't drink. There's a recognition that having less alcohol in your life is something to be modeled.
If you're just joining us, I'm Blake Farmer. This is Nashville. We're talking about what it looks like to be drying out in a drinking town with Dr. Michael Caldwell of Meharry Medical College. Reminder, we're also streaming video at youtube.com/@WPLN, where we're also getting a Dry January chat going if you want to chime in. So producer Josh Deepen went to a tasting event at Killjoy Booze-Free Beverages on Sunday, and you'll see here just how much complexity these NA spirits still have.
Anything else you want to try?
Yeah, I'd love to try the St. Oak. I actually get Little Saints delivered regularly, so I'm really familiar with their the Ember, the St. Ember, and the.
They have worked for 3 years on this.
Yeah, oh wow!
And really trying to get. Even like we were on a call with the owner, and she was talking about trying to get the. She was like, we had one that was really good at the back tongue feeling, but our bartenders didn't like the front of the tongue feeling, so we had to reformulate the whole thing. You're like, okay, great.
Yeah, they really worked hard.
But Little Saints is just so good about sourcing ethical and just like really good ingredients. So.
Yeah, so listen, there's still some complexity there to these things. When Josh was sampling these soft spirits, he met people that are turning away from hard drinks, including Jason Horwitz.
I know, again, people that will maybe have one alcoholic drink, one non-alcoholic drink. It seems to be in a trend of wellness. I know that's an overused term, but people just kind of wanting to wake up feeling a little better and not groggy or hungover and whatnot. So it's just a good option again versus a water or a soda to have these type of products. But personally, just kind of feel better physically, mentally, kind of scaling back on certain substances, as it were.
Certain substances. Jason wanted to feel better in the morning. So joining us now is the owner of Killjoy, Stephanie Still. Welcome to This Is Nashville.
Thanks so much for having me.
And Ian Cox of Milestone Brands, who launched a zero alcohol version of their butterfly pea infused Empress Gin, which is like an indigo blue. It's beautiful. But Ian, welcome to This Is Nashville.
Thanks for having me. Excited to be here.
Well, Stephanie, start with the name Killjoy. Is this like buzzkill?
Yeah, I mean, I just thought it was a funny name for a shop that didn't sell alcohol.
I think it's a funny name too, and I've heard that from many folks who've heard me say the name aloud. So we're going to keep it rolling today. What's the story of Empress Gin?
So Empress Gin's been around as a whole with the Indigo Gin for about 7-8 years now.
Yeah.
Joined the Milestone family in 2022, and it's just been a really exciting brand to work with and sell over the years.
So Milestone acquired the alcoholic version of of Empress Gin, and then why the decision to make an NA version?
Well, the liquor industry as a whole is generally a copycat industry. And you look at trends and you see where they're going. And, as everyone's mentioned, drinking is down over the years. And, I think the peak of COVID, people took a step back and said, hey, we need to slow down, right? COVID was a boom for the liquor industry. And so we started developing this.
So, but you're saying it was a boom for the liquor industry. And you're saying when you're talking like what should we be doing, you're seeing those numbers go down and saying even just there's a business case for going NA.
Absolutely. There's a business case for expanding your portfolio and giving people options. At the tasting event we did at Killjoy, I had multiple people running over to us, absolutely excited and just really grateful that we came out with our 0.0 because they loved Empress Gin. It was something they drank, and they missed being able to enjoy it.
If you're watching on YouTube, join Infinite Valence, who's always commenting. Thank you, Infinite Valence, who says, I love the idea behind mocktails, but I already struggle with sugar. Rye on the rocks remains my go-to when I do choose a drink. Well, there you go. So we'll see if we can get the sugar out of mocktails, but you got to have something in there or you're going to really kill the joy. So does Killjoy sell this 0% gin that we're talking about, the Empress?
Yes, we do.
What do you all carry? Like, what do you find that people are buying?
Sure. So a lot of people are confused about what's in our shop until they come in. So we encourage everybody to come in, but we sell wine, spirits, beers, and functional beverages. Okay. Everything is non-alcoholic. So we have Empress Gin, but we also have, 50 other types of spirits. The one that he was talking about in that clip is a non-alcoholic whiskey that's also infused with adaptogens. It has lion's mane, reishi mushrooms, and damiana in it.
Oh, so it's got something interesting.
There is no sugar.
And there is no sugar. All right, Infinite Balance.
We got you.
Killjoy got you. So what's the what do people think they're coming in to buy at Killjoy if they don't know?
I mean, well, it was interesting because I had a reporter from Channel 4 come the other day, and he was like, I literally thought there was going to be like sodas in here.
I see. Oh, they thought it was soft drinks.
Yeah. Like people are not aware that, when you come into our shop, we have 60 different kinds of de-alcoholized wine.
Wow.
If you like wine and you like a certain type of wine, we probably have something that's going to help you scratch that itch. Or if you're hosting, a dinner party and you're serving a nice Chardonnay with your meal, maybe provide a non-alcoholic option.
Ian, I wonder, since you kind of have, your company's based in Austin, you work in several different states. Like, can you tell how Nashville's, I don't know if NA market is the right way to talk about it, but like, is the demand for non-alcoholic options comparable to what you find elsewhere?
It's not something that I've paid attention to elsewhere outside of really in Tennessee. It's a growing trend. I will say this, liquor stores are taking space away from other things and putting in sections for NA beverages.
That's telling, right?
Right. Grocery stores are doing it. You've got stores like Killjoy that are offering that space. They saw a need and they're filling it and doing a great job, by the way. We love your stores. And so it really is something where you're seeing the rise of it and everybody's recognizing it. Bars and restaurants are taking menu space and putting non-alcoholic options on their menus, which, being someone who I ran restaurants for years, that menu space, that's a valuable space. It's limited.
Blake, can I make one
Dr.
comment?
Caldwell,
I was
go
going to
ahead.
say how grateful I am to Stephanie Still and her leadership and entrepreneurship, because she's fulfilling an unmet need. You know, there are a lot of people who struggle with alcohol and they turn away from alcohol. And the only option until Stephanie came by is to go to Total Wine and go for that little tiny non-alcoholic section. And you'd walk in and you have to see all this alcohol and get triggered, right? So now I can just go to Stephanie's place and feel a safe place and space and somebody who's fully knowledgeable about all those different cool things, as opposed to going to a big alcohol place and you say, hey, where's your NA section? And maybe 90% of people go, oh, I think it's over there. But wow, Stephanie has just risen up, not only here in Nashville, but nationally, to be able to help lead the way and give people a safe space. And that's actually emerging now into larger places where people can go and enjoy non-alcoholic drinks, adult non-alcoholic drinks.
Right. That is an important word there, and we're going to get into that in just a moment, but we do need to take our first break. When we come back, a bit of backlash over mocktails, so hang with us, and we'll talk THC alternatives. Stay with us. This is Nashville. I'm Blake Farmer, and this is Nashville. The Tennessean's Brad Schmidt wrote this week about his own experience as a recovering alcoholic being faced with so many cocktail lookalikes. He set the scene at a fancy steakhouse in Midtown, unnamed, with a couple of buddies who are also in recovery. He shows up and he sees this martini glass complete with the olives on a toothpick. And the others had highball glasses. And Brad has this visceral reaction, kind of a WTF moment. And then they laugh and say, don't worry, they're mocktails. But Brad was really shaken, and not in a good way. He decided imitation alcohol wasn't for him.
What can be triggering is the non-alcoholic beer that tastes exactly like beer. The non-alcoholic gin, scotch, vodka that tastes exactly like that. I've had several friends in sobriety in recovery who've had 1 or 2 years sober working a program, and they'll have a non-alcoholic beer, and that has led them to buy a 6-pack of the real stuff and to relapse, which puts them in a dangerous place.
Well, there's no one right way to move away from booze, as Brad would tell you, but thanks to Brad Schmidt for sharing his insights. And we're talking today about going dry in a drinking town. And, I'm wearing yellow sunglasses because of dry January. I learned today that yellow is the official color from Dr. Michael Caldwell, Mr. Dry January from Meharry Medical College, also wearing his shades and a yellow tie. Tie, not for me. But also here is Stephanie Still of Killjoy Booze-Free Beverages and Ian Cox with Milestone Brands, which just launched an NA Gin at the end of last year. We are streaming video at youtube.com/@WPLN. How do you feel about the mocktail craze and liquor lookalikes? You can chime in at the chat, and we'll work that into our convo. So, Stephanie, you went alcohol-free, I think, personally in the last few years. What was that journey for you?
I quit drinking in 2020.
As everyone else was drinking more.
Well, after drinking a lot more than towards the end of the year. It was a big year for me. At the beginning of the year, I was working at Hands On Nashville, and of course, there was the big tornado. So it was very stressful. I also had a baby at the end of 2019, my first. So I'm a new mom working in disaster relief, now at home all the time. And alcohol is basically how I coped, and I also I turned 40 that year. So I just realized I needed to make a change. I definitely wasn't drinking in a healthy way. I had been drinking since I was in college in a pretty heavy way. So I'd been sober curious, I'd say, for about 5 years. And I finally, on my 40th birthday, decided to make the switch.
Have you found, like Brad was saying, that even booze-free beverages can be a problem for some people in recovery?
So I did not go the traditional recovery route.
Yeah.
And I did attend a few AA meetings in the beginning, but I really didn't feel like it was for me. And in the AA model, they tell people, do not drink this stuff. So in general, Killjoy does a lot of community events, and we don't reach out to the recovery community. I don't consider that my target audience. It is more people who are trying to cut back or people who love, red wine and want an alternative to that. And people who want to experience community in the way that they used to, but without alcohol. So we did a weekly bar night every Tuesday of last year. And Brad and his friends actually came out to that, which was awesome. And I love Brad. But yeah, it's not for everyone. It is absolutely not for everyone. And I think for me, what's so exciting right now is that there's a whole spectrum of ways to stop drinking. You don't have to be sober and you don't have to go to AA. And thinking that was the only way to quit drinking kept me drinking for a long time.
I see.
Recognizing that there are other ways to do it and that you can still have fun, you can still socialize, and you can still drink sophisticated drinks works for a lot of people.
Yeah. Dr. Caldwell, do you have a position on NA alternatives for folks who've really been struggling with drinking, might need recovery?
Yeah, our position is to listen to what the people in the community are saying. So the voice of Brad there is very important. And I loved the way he also put in his article the fact that he said, look, this is the way I feel, and I know I have stories of a few people, but he does also say the majority of people he knows, this is a good thing to have, these adult non-alcoholic beverages. So our position is one of a recognition that there is not one way to do it, that we need to be thoughtful and mindful and cautious, especially for people who have severe triggers that they may need to be concerned about. Interestingly, what Stephanie said about the Alcoholics Anonymous was the position for a long time of the National Institute of Health. They have a National Institute of Alcohol Abuse and Alcoholism. They used to be like zero, like don't even talk to me about it. Like you can never have this again. But there's a new concept now. It's called harm reduction, right? Harm reduction. And we're seeing this in the tobacco control industry. So, for example, people are saying, well, vaping is not as dangerous as combustible tobacco. But yet there are a lot of public health people struggling. They're saying, no, you have to be 0, 0, 0. So what you will find is now here is a new issue, alcohol. Is there a way to get people, and once again, it's millions and millions of people that can be on this journey to reduce their alcohol, and that's okay for them.
Yeah.
And we want to be able to respond to them and not just be, yes or no.
Well, Ian Cox, when you all are marketing this new brand, what do you see as like a target market? Is this people who are sort of self-regulating and trying to cut back?
That's exactly it. Studies and statistics are showing that people who do drink will still drink non-alcoholic beverages.
Yeah.
I'm actually one of those. I was going to jump in on y'all's point that, the way a lot of people are out, the way I drink, I'm a beer and I like a neat pour of something, right? That's what I tend to do. The non-alcoholic beers, they've been getting better and better for years. Brands like Athletic and then all these other name brand. I mean, the Guinness NA is delicious. I have a friend that really enjoys it, and he was a Guinness drinker forever. But for me, there was never anything that really kind of scratched that itch for the neat pour of something, right? So having more and more spirits that are getting tastier and tastier that you don't have to mix heavily and cover up allows you to get that itch and keep you from drinking.
Or you have one beer and then one NA beer.
Exactly. It'll keep you there. It does what your body needs, but it's healthier for you.
And one other thing I want to point out is not all non-alcoholic beverages taste like alcohol.
No.
Like there's a lot of other flavors out there. So when Brad and his friends were at our bar night, they were able to find things to drink that were not triggering for them.
I see.
Yeah. A lot of them actually don't taste like alcohol, at least in my opinion. And that's been a big challenge for me in being able to, cut back on things like that. So to get something that you can drink on its own and taste good, it's a way to do it. So
It's not just NA. A lot of folks are looking to THC instead of alcohol at times. Stephanie, how much of your customer base is trying out THC-infused drinks?
Right now, about 30% of our sales are THC.
Yeah. How are you able to sell THC drinks in Tennessee?
You mean the legality of
Yeah.
it? Anything that is hemp-derived is federally legal through the Farm Bill.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a loophole.
Can you tell if the drink was hemp-derived?
They have like analyses that are online that people could go into, but yes, I mean the distributors sell them to us. They're legal products. Yeah.
I just think people sometimes are surprised, like, oh wait, I thought our state was not one that did that.
Yeah.
Dr. Caldwell, how does the medical community feel? And obviously, I'm sure there's a range of opinions, but about THC drinks in place of alcohol.
Yeah, well, Dry January is silent on it. We are not in favor of it, but we're not actively opposed to it. We're monitoring it very carefully, as we are with THC in our whole society. What really is a concern for us is that it's kind of a wild west of marketing right now, and I think people are experimenting, and unfortunately, there are a range of products that may not, be following quite dosing and things like that. People are looking for other alternatives, and it's filled with potentially danger. Maybe not in drinks that and you feel like you know what you're drinking. That people like to get push the edge on this, and I would say please be very cautious, because then you never know what else may be in there. And we are having this big epidemic with other types of drugs. So just be careful if you're experimenting with anything other than what maybe in Stephanie's shop that she has experience with.
How do they measure dosing? That let's say you look at a beer or a wine or something, you would see like the the gravity, the percentage of alcohol. How do you know about THC?
It's very similar to ABV. There's like the 5 milligram is a very common dosage for a drink, which is very similar to like a 5% ABV beer.
I see.
And it's going to have a similar impact on people, but a lot of education needs to happen, because a can could have 2 milligrams, which is low. It could have, right now, it could have 50 milligrams, which will do some crazy stuff to you. And I hear horror stories all the time about somebody who drinks one of those not realizing what the dosage is.
Right.
So I think one thing that we try really hard is to provide good education. And we have a lot of people who come in and want to try it for harm reduction reasons. I'm trying to drink less. I still need to get a buzz sometimes. How can I do that? And we recommend to start with the lowest dosage.
Right. If you're just tuning in, this is Nashville. I'm your host, Blake Farmer. We're talking about drying out in a drinking town. We also have this side discussion going on at youtube.com/@WPLN, where we stream video if you care to see us in our yellow garb today. You can also jump in the chat while you're watching there. B. Kamathi Media says, what's the price comparison between alcoholic and non-alcoholic drinks? Ian, what do you all see?
We actually are line priced with our gin.
As in it's the same, whether it's got alcohol or not.
It's the same, and the main reason is you have to figure out the way to, in our case with Empress, is to stabilize the color, because the alcohol was the stabilizer.
Is that right?
So we had to figure out a way to stabilize it so that's shelf stable.
As a reminder, if you weren't listening, the Empress gin is a bright's maybe not the word. It's almost like a deep blue.
Right. Vibrant blue.
That's okay. Like vibrant blue. How about like at Killjoy? Well, I guess you don't have alcoholic drinks, so.
No, but the prices are very similar.
I see. You can expect it's $10.99 for the 6-pack or whatever is
in general. Yes, and most of our wines and beers are de-alcoholized, so they like make wine and then they take the alcohol out of it. So
in other words, you might think it's more expensive
plus an extra step.
Well, okay, that's helpful, because I think a lot of people think, it doesn't have alcohol, it must be cheaper, and it's probably more expensive to make.
Yeah, it's about the same.
It's about the same.
Well, let's talk about drinking culture, and not really like the party culture of Lower Broadway in Nashville, but kind of like the let's go grab a drink kind of culture, sort of that social lubrication that alcohol often provides. Dr. Caldwell, I'm thinking of like the music industry, maybe deals getting done over drinks or connections made. I wonder what you've seen of maybe people's difficulty here in town of navigating the business world when you're trying to abstain?
Well, Dry January does offer sort of a benevolent way to say, you know, I'm doing that this month. Or you could also say, you know, I'm in training for some athletic event that people will kind of forgive that. So there are ways actually that we like people to know if you're in situations like that, that you need to have some kind of explanations that make it seem okay for you to abstain. It's fine. But there's no question that the music industry, the food and beverage industry, even the healthcare industry, a lot of industries and entrepreneurship in Nashville suffer from higher rates of addiction and alcoholism than anything else. So we have to understand that it is a big problem, and we want to give people some type of opportunities for off-ramps. That's why we have Yellow, too. Is just you may not be doing Dry January, but at least maybe you're supporting somebody to do it. We're trying to get less people to be able to make fun of people doing Dry January or supporting them. And let's face it, there are a lot of people who are sober that struggle, and every day is difficult for them not to drink. And we want to be able to stand with them and say, we stand with you in your challenges, and we support you in choosing no alcohol. But the music industry, the entrepreneurship community, I think it's a mixed bag. I've heard there's some artists that will not hire people to go on tour with them if they don't drink because they don't trust them. See, and I think
that interesting.
And I think that we need to understand that, and hopefully just keep educating people, and maybe being able to let people find other ways that they could feel a bond and trust people.
Yeah. Well, Ian, I'm wondering about your all's gin. I mean, it looks the same on the shelf, let's say at the bar. Like, was there any intention of it almost being like you could order this and the people around you wouldn't know that you were ordering an NA drink?
That's a lot of the intention of it. It looks the same. It tastes a little different, but it still holds its color and does the color change aspect that people really like about the butterfly pea flower with the indigo gin. We made it very clear on the label 0.0, but to your point,
so it doesn't get mixed up on the shelf.
Very much. To your point about supporting people who are going through sobriety, the food and beverage industry, as you said, it has a very big connection with people having substance abuse problems. The industry as a whole has gotten very positive and responsive to someone saying, hey, I'm not drinking right now. They go, cool, great. Can I make you a mocktail? Can I make you a non-alcoholic option? What can we do to keep you here and included in our community and not making you feel shame about it? Where maybe 10, 15 years ago, it was, oh no, you're not going to be sober. Here, have a shot. We try not to do that anymore.
Honestly, I've seen over the past 3 years, it's been a big part of our mission to change the culture around what it means to not drink.
Right.
And I've seen a massive shift in the way people look at you when you go out, when people order non-alcoholic beers or regular beers. Like, it's becoming very normalized. Yeah. And that was a big part of our mission.
Well, what do you hear from customers, and even, I guess, your own experience about kind of like that evolving social pressure? I mean, the fact that Dr. Caldwell's over here talking about needing to come up with some excuses if you need them. Is that still the case here?
You know what? I'm so deeply immersed in the community that's on the other side of that. I mean, what I'm seeing is Ashley McBride is very publicly sober and has a bar downtown, that they do serve alcoholic drinks, but non-alcoholic is the focus. Yeah. And that represents a culture shift. Like, a culture shift is happening. And especially the younger you are, the more people have grown up with the concept that alcohol is not good for you. The more and it's kind of funny because they're also not really the people drinking Empress Gin. They're the ones coming in going, I want like something that tastes good, but they've never had a gin cocktail. You know what I mean?
If you haven't ever had gin, you're probably not going to go for it.
No, and they try it and they go, oh my gosh.
It is funny enough. I found it more difficult than I realized it would be to hand sell non-alcoholic bottles of Empress Gin.
Hand sell meaning what?
Going into a store, think of the times you've gone into a liquor store and someone said, hey, would you like to try this? To try to get you to buy it. That's the hand sell. Those are set up tastings that we schedule out, and doing those with our Empress 0.0. Because when people come into the liquor store, they're more than likely shopping for liquor.
Yeah. So you almost need a place that they came here because they were looking for 0.0.
These amazing places in town like Killjoy.
Well, Killjoy, you got East Nashville, you got Berry Hill. You're going to have to open up, I don't know, on the west side or something.
We're coming. No, I don't know. We're not really.
You heard it right here. Well, Dr. Caldwell, I wonder if you could kind of help us understand where we are in this moment. And we saw the big surge in COVID. And now we're seeing, I don't know, the pendulum kind of swinging the other way, it appears. Is there any reason that you feel like this might just stick?
Yeah, there's no going back. And I think the inflection point is really the Surgeon General's advisory. Even though it was just cancer, I think more and more the evidence is piling up. And it will continue to pile up. And this knowledge gap that people have with not really understanding that alcohol is not good for you, there's 20 reasons for it. Whether you care about your brain, your heart, your blood pressure, your cholesterol, your weight, your exercise, there's a reason for you to have less alcohol in your life. And I think this is that inflection point. We are going to think back at this. We'll talk again 10 or 20 years and we'll say, yeah, wow, we've come a long way. Can you imagine being where we were in 1964 and seeing where we are now?
With smoking.
With smoking. And the rapid decrease in heart disease, stroke, cancer, COPD, which is pulmonary disease, over a third of the reduction has just been because of reduction in tobacco. So I believe that we can and are on a pathway that is not going to change.
Well, we're going to say goodbye to Stephanie Still, Ian Cox, and Michael Caldwell. Thank you all for joining us in an important discussion.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you. And please go to dryjanuaryusa.org and download that Try Dry app. And thanks so much to you, Blake. And Meharry Medical College is 150 years old.
Well, thank you, Dr. Caldwell. When we come back, we're going to talk about sobriety and sports in this city. It's a show about drying out in a drinking town. Stay with us. This is Nashville. I'm Blake Farmer, and this is Nashville. People are almost proud of drinking culture surrounding pro sports. In 2012, the Chicago Bears trounced the Titans, and their local NBC affiliate reported, rather proudly, that several bars in Nashville ran out of bottled beer by the end of the day, leading to headlines about drinking the town dry. I find this a tad hard to believe, but a company that sells blood alcohol meters that sync with your smartphone collected data about NFL fans, from NFL fans rather, and found that Titans fans had the highest blood alcohol content of any fans in the country. Not saying you can take it to the bank, but an interesting bit of info there, and maybe our next guest can believe it. We're talking about drying out in a drinking town, and we're ending the hour about drinking in sports. And our guest is Titans season ticket holder and teetotaler Hal Tayup. Welcome to This is Nashville.
Hey, thanks for having me, Blake.
I don't know if you call yourself a teetotaler. It's just a fun word to say. Sorry.
I'm a lifelong Titans fan, and those experiences at games are true to say that they have the highest BAC averages at these events. And it is an interesting place to be when you're sober. For somebody who's never drank.
Well, I remember going to a game when I was, probably my early 20s before I regularly drank beer, and I couldn't believe how much it cost. And I thought, who would buy these beers? They're so expensive. Anyway, and then I find myself standing in those lines now. But if you want to get in on this convo about drinking and sports, you can chime in at youtube.com/@WPLN, where you can also watch our video stream while you jump in on the chat. We'll try to work your questions or comments into the discussion. So, Hal, you are Muslim, part of our large Kurdish community here in town. Do most Kurds abstain from alcohol for religious reasons?
Mostly, yes.
Yeah.
And And a lot of it comes from the religion aspect of it as well. And then it kind of blends in with the culture at these sporting events or just out in general.
Yeah.
But the majority, yes, do abstinence.
So as someone who doesn't drink, what do you notice about alcohol and the experience at a sports game like at Nissan Stadium?
It just, the interactions they vary. And I've seen, the stadium full of fans around me drinking. And I think the biggest difference is the ability to like watch the game, stay focused, the detail for somebody like me who enjoys football and the details and all that. I feel like if I did have a drink, I wouldn't be able to stay honed in the same way as if I was, had a drink.
Right, because it's a complex game. You could sort of see if someone caught a touchdown pass, but you're not seeing all that's happening away from the ball, all that stuff.
Yeah, and being there, that's one of the aspects I always think about is that if I was to be there and not be sober, then I would miss the little nuances of the game that I enjoy, a big block and other aspects of it that make me a big fan and all the details that go in it.
So how do you manage being surrounded by people, slinging Budweiser all over the place?
You kind of like, I've gotten used to it, but you kind of have to be careful because I've seen certain incidents where a fight is about to break out where, a gentleman is with his family and he wants to fight. Whereas if he was sober, that may have not been the case because he may think this is not a good place for this. My wife and my kids are with me. And I think it kind of, your perspective of it is a little different to say, if I was to drink, how would my behaviors change? Would I be able to focus or would I be angry? Would I be, zoned out? And I always think about that at these events.
And I think folks who go to a sporting event, maybe with kids who are old enough to understand what's going on, you become much more aware of just how many people are acting at least on the verge of unruly because of that. Have you had any experiences with drunk fans?
Me personally, I'm always thinking about that to say, okay, if I'm encountering somebody who has been drinking, I'm always careful to make sure that I'm not doing anything that could make them upset as opposed to, a normal conversation. And sometimes they do vary, but not all the time. I've seen somebody who has a drink and has 2, 3, 4 beers throughout the game, and it's just different. But you're always thinking about it, and it's always in the back of your mind to say, make sure you don't do anything that's going to trigger an opposing fan because Tennessee has one of those places where you have a lot of opposing fans.
Oh, right. And they came they're on a trip. They've got like vacation vibes too. So they're just.
Yes. So that's always something that I think about is saying, okay, I have to be careful here. And not saying it can't happen to somebody who's completely sober, but I've seen it more likely with somebody who has been drinking.
Name a team. Who seems to be the drunkest traveling fans?
The Raiders was one that was always.
Really?
Yeah, when the Raiders came into town, that was an interesting experience, and notoriously known for unruly behavior. Right. But that was one where that was kind of different. I've done some away games when San Diego was still at Colcom down in San Diego. Yeah. They had a parking lot full of tailgates, and people were blacked out drunk walking into the game. I was like, this is crazy.
Oh, starting off on a bad foot.
Yeah, it's set up for that, but it was interesting, definitely.
If you're just tuning in, this is Nashville. I'm Blake Farmer. If you want to chime in on our discussion about drying out in a drinking town, there's a chat going at the video stream, youtube.com/@WPLN. I'm with Titan season ticket holder and die hard, not a fair weather fan, Hal Taib, who does not imbibe. Have you ever heard of Section Yellow in Green Bay? I hate to make this a quiz, but anyway, it's yellow. And I only learned this in prepping for this show, but apparently there's now like 14 teams, though I don't think the Titans yet, that have started these like sober sections.
I don't know about any of the stadiums I've been. I've been to quite a few away games, and like Buffalo is one where again, pregame was wild. Like,
right.
Yeah, and I don't know. I know the new stadium, the Titans are going to get a mosh pit. Now, I don't know if the fan base mosh pit that we're getting here is going to be sober, but they are getting a mosh pit in the new stadium.
I don't know about a mosh pit. You're saying where people could just stand and watch the game?
Yeah, it'll be a standing section.
I see. So you'd want to be. I see why you might want to be careful about alcohol with that too.
Yeah.
So I don't know. For somebody who goes to a game not at all to drink, would you find yourself in one of those sections, even though like sobriety recovery is not the reason?
If I was to go to a away game, it's more than likely not I would seek out something like that, especially in Green Bay or in a city that I know it's kind of maybe Philly, maybe the same thing. You know, fans who are a bit more unruly. That would be something that I would definitely consider.
Yeah.
And not that it bothers me at this point in my life, but when it's so prevalent and it's around you all the time, you want to be able to curb that temptation when it's around you. Maybe you want to have a bottle.
You know, I've seen the Predators, as in hockey, started a recovery night a couple years ago. Nashville SC has kind of advertise their NA options at their concession stands during soccer matches. Do you see any sport in town kind of being more friendly to non-drinkers?
At least not that I've noticed, because it's just part of the culture, right? And
but it's not necessarily part of soccer, right? I mean, didn't they, when they were playing World Cup games in Qatar, it was like, I think famously there was no alcohol.
Yeah, so it does work. But there was a lot of pushback in the beginning, and the tournament ended up being a great event, and you didn't hear about a lot of incidents. And I think that's sort of like the model that follows that maybe they should look at. But sporting events in American culture in general, the ones that I've been to, alcohol is such on the forefront that when I go, you know, I get invited to tailgates with the Titans, and I'm like, I can't go to a Bud Light event. You don't
even really want to go because you're like, this is so about alcohol.
It's not. It's just the fact that I'll be there, and if I'm not drinking, I feel like a sore thumb, and you're not there drinking with everybody else. It kind of makes you feel timid because everybody else is doing it, and you're like, well, I don't want to be there if I'm the only one that's not going to be doing it.
And I'm guessing people would say, oh, no, it's fine. We'd love to have you anyway. But you're saying you feel like an outsider.
Yeah, definitely. I think the biggest part of it is that when I go to these events, I enjoy the events. And if I'm afraid that if I have a drink, it'll change the way my mind can be. And I don't want that to happen. As outside of the religion aspect of it and all the things that entails itself.
Well, how do you think pro sports could make it more inclusive for people who don't drink? Because it certainly seems far-fetched that they would, go drive for a game. But is there a way?
I think a good way would be to follow that model in Qatar to say, hey, let's do half of the section where you have drinks and half of them you don't. Or the alternatives now, as we listened to the segment earlier with Killjoy and Jen, where you can have alternatives where, people who are non-alcoholic drinkers are people who are recovering to have these at these events. I think it would be something to think about. I don't know what the cost would be to have that.
Well, if you could replace some of the many, many kiosks, let's say at Nissan Stadium, that sell beer and liquor, what would you replace it with?
That's a tough choice. So they have sodas. I would look to alcohol alternatives because somebody who doesn't drink, who's never had a drink in his life, for instance, I like having a cigar. With my cigar, I like to have an athletic beer.
Which isn't that fun? I don't think you could smoke a cigar at a...
No, but if I had...
Isn't that interesting, though, that is not allowed?
If I was to have it at a stadium, I would probably look for coffee, look for something, the alternative. But let's say, to cancel that out, Killjoy would be... What they have there would be a great
all right, cancel it. He was going to say cigar bar. Instead, he says Killjoy. Let him run a kiosk. Yeah. You heard it right here. Well, Hal Taib, thank you so much for providing some of your insights today.
Appreciate it. Thank you for having me.
Well, thank you for tuning in this hour. This is Nashville is a production of Nashville Public Radio. If you missed yesterday's show, we got to know teacher Ben Slinkard, better known as a drag performer. Kennedy Ann Scott, he's written about his experience in a new book authored with other drag performers. You can listen in the podcast feed or at thisisnashville.org. Today's episode was produced lovingly by Josh Deepen, directed by Tasha A.F. Limley. Our board operator is Liv Lombardi. The masterminds behind our theme music are Larange and Namir Blade. The conversation doesn't end here. You can comment, tell us what you want to hear on the show by leaving us a message at 615-751-2500. You can also find us on Instagram, and we're starting something new this year, looking for quick videos of things that are quintessentially or uniquely Nashville. Like, the line out the door at all hours at Baja Burrito, at least the hours they're open. Tag us at This Is Nashville. I'm Blake Farmer. Go in peace.